And welcome back to Survivor 50 Seasons in 50 Days. I just finished watching Chris Underwood win Survivor Edge of Extinction. It's day 38. One more day, and I will have officially hit a whole OG Survivor season, so I'm excited about that. I have a full panel to talk about a season that the first time I did this was fairly low. Last time I did it was kind of in the mid 20s, and we'll kind of see what happens with it this time. Spoilers, I really enjoy it. Panel includes McKenna making her return from the first week.
Yeah, Pearl Islands.
The first week. Then we have Jocelyn, first time in 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. And John, who was here last week or a week and a half ago. And so, John, we will start with you. When the twist Edge of Extinction was announced, one, did you know what it was going to be? Two, what did you want it to be? And what did you ultimately think of the twist as it was presented in that first episode?
That's a great question, because I can't exactly remember what I was thinking 8 years ago at this point. But this was a point where Edge of Extinction came there in a very interesting point in my Survivor fandom where I was just really starting to get involved in the community. This is kind of when I first started really diving into Survivor podcasts and everything, started listening to like RHAP and the specialists and really dissecting things and figuring out how things were going. So upon learning what Edge of Extinction was, there's a bit of apprehension towards it. I think there's a bit of elitism in this broader Survivor community, and that goes for both super fans and casual fans, where the idea of people being voted out of the game and remaining in the game isn't Survivor. So I think there was a bit of apprehension to it at first within myself. But as the years have gone by, and I've rewatched the season many, many times at this point, I mean, back in February, in the offseason leading up to 50, the specialists were doing a hot takes draft, and I had 2 hot takes pertaining to Edge of Extinction in that draft. One is Chris Underwood plays a perfect game, and the second is that Edge of Extinction is the best season of the 30s. So needless to say, this season has grown on me over the years.
We'll kind of see how I fall on that, at least that second one, because you might be shocked. Jocelyn, for you, I know that you first watched this season 2 years ago. Did it change going into this time watching, or is it kind of stayed the same?
It changed a lot for me. David versus Goliath is one of my favorite seasons. I truly love it. It's like just fun watching for me. Mike White, red wine. Like I really just love watching that season. So since this came in a marathon for me of watching all of them in a row for the very first time, I think this season suffered my first time through a lot from coming off of loving the season before so much. Mm-hmm. Now watching it, I don't even have problems with the twist itself. For me, it comes down to the way that it played out, the lessons they learned between now and Winners at War as to the way to do it in a better way, and the way that it sours the way that the win happens for me. But it takes a lot less away than it did on the first watch. And fun watchability, this is one of my top seasons. It's really just the twist for me, and then watching it off of a really high season for me. So it went way up for me.
McKenna, it's another in a long line of 30 seasons of a new twist, a returnee, a whatever. Of the twists that we have had this season, or this decade, whatever, this 10 season period, where does Edge of Extinction as just a concept kind of fall for you?
I really do like the Edge as a twist, but I think they push it just a little too far with going as deep into the merge. I think it should stop at the merge, and I think it would be a great twist if it does, because now they're not interacting with the jury. So Chris really benefits, we'll talk obviously later on this, but Chris really benefits from being able to talk to the entire jury throughout the game and make those relationships where Reem is the first person voted out. The only person she knows is Chris. So I think it is really interesting to have these players, their games stretched out a little bit and have a little bit more time with them, get to know them, because who remembers like a third boot? Well, now he goes on and wins, but like it just is. It's a great twist if it was modified a little bit to not have that upper hand with the talking to the jury.
I've used this phrase a lot throughout this time during the marathon of the generic whites, of just pre-merge white folk, usually males, that I just do not know. And it's funny because the first time I watched Edge of Extinction, Chris kind of fell into that category. Like most people on this cast have, very obvious character traits, and it's him and the other generic white who, until today, I forgot existed, and I kept forgetting existed throughout the season, and that's Eric. And that'll probably be the only Eric reference we have tonight. We have 4 returnees this season, and for me, both the first time I watched the season and today, I really only needed one of them, David, because he was coming fresh off of Millennials vs. Gen X. I didn't need a Wentworth 3.0 at that point. Like a little later, potentially, Joe is just better James Clement. He has no knack for what the social strategic part of the game is, and we see what happens this time. And then who am I missing? Oh, Aubrey, which I'll get to her. For the returnees this season, John, do you think we could have gotten better replacements? Do you think that we needed 4? Could we have cut it down to 2? Like, what are your thoughts on what we got?
Okay, there are a couple of things with the returnees that I kind of want to address here. First off, I think 4 is the correct number in this season. And I think a lot of that comes to the fact that when there's only 1 at this point, I think there had to be this assumption that people would be kind of headhunting returnees in this situation. So giving them someone to naturally work with does make a lot more sense in these captain seasons, right? Gives it a little bit easier. And I think because of the way Edge of Extinction is in the season, you wanted some appeal if one of these players goes home early. And there's the hope that one of them gets voted out in the pre-merge so that they are featured in the titular twist of the season. What I don't understand is what they were going with these returnees, because we have 3 3-time players and David coming back for his second time. So I'm not 100% sure where they were going with this, what archetypes they were going with. They kind of went with like somewhat opposite archetypes where you could have like Joe as a male challenge beast, Wentworth kind of as like the scrappy underdog female challenge beast, and juxtapose it with, nerdy strategy heavy Aubrey and David. But it doesn't quite resonate as to why these 4 people are brought together. Yeah.
Jocelyn, is there anybody else that you would have rather seen at this point?
It's so weird because they almost feel, other than Joe being Rupert at this point, so random in a way that like my brain has trouble picking people to replace them with because I can't see the framework that I'm supposed to be picking someone to put into.
Yeah, like Philippines are all medevacs. So it's like there's a rhyme and a reason to these captains. It's Rob versus Russell, so you could do like a who do you want to verse against each other? But like you're saying, there's no rhyme or reason to anybody here. It's just like, we wanted these guys.
They answered the phone. Yeah, they answered the call. They were the first 4 people. We cold called them. They said yes. And we kind of put them on a boat, and then they, came out. And Jocelyn, I'm going to stay with you. Well, I might be aging myself, but also y'all are all old enough to have watched older cartoons even as a child. Joe comes back with a Snidely Whiplash mustache that really, okay, does anyone understand that reference?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. All right, just making sure. And it just immediately turns me off to him for a 3rd time. And we're only focusing on what's happening on screen, and it's like I'm already done with Joe 5 minutes in because I hate this mustache. We we start to learn about a lot of the newer players that we have here, and I think one of the misconceptions about the season is it's the Rick Devens show. And the first couple of times I watched this season, I felt like I agreed. Today, the Rick Devens show doesn't really start until final 6, final 7. Up until then, I do feel like it's fairly fair-ish with people. They still do bury, Julie. They bury Victoria towards, the middle. They bury Gavin. But I don't feel like it's just Rick Devens and a whole bunch of people, or even Rick Devens and a bunch of returnees and the rest of the people. Jocelyn, who were the standouts for you these first couple of episodes? Just like who were you kind of vibing with? Was there anyone that kind of stood out to you as like, I need this person to win?
So I really I want to say the Ron and Eric duo, but I mean Ron when I say that. There's a lot of Ron and Eric talk in this season, and in reality, that's just Ron being really, really kind and throwing Eric's name in every time their names come up together. I think I just connected with Ron's vibe immediately. I think, to pre-answer your later question, I think Ron's who I would immediately try and team up with on the island. All of the out of show stuff too confirms that he's just kind of like a pretty great guy, and that vibe hit really well for me. And it was fun watching him play and watching him strategize. There's some questionable things as we get later where I'm like, oh, buddy. But in the beginning, it was fun watching him like try and jump in. The Wendy stuff in the beginning is so good. Like Wendy and the chickens, Wendy just being Wendy. Like, how do you not? Wendy. I didn't think Wendy would win. I didn't want Wendy to win, but how do you not love watching Wendy at the beginning of this season? Like, it's, yeah. I actually looked in my notes when you said that, because I have a note. Episode 9 is the first time that I was like, now we're seeing why Devens comes back, and we're seeing the game that we're used to Devens playing. It's episode 9.
Yeah, which is the half council, so that makes sense. But I actually brought up the confessional count here, Coach. And Devens does have twice as many confessionals as the next person on the season, but 30 of them, which is more than the next person, come in the last 3 episodes of the season.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that, but yes, that makes sense. That makes sense, and that's like we're teasing winner edit territory. If you believe in that, that's teasing winner edit territory of, oh, okay, we're just gonna backlog the season with nothing but, and it's either going to be he flames out, or he's going to win the game. And so, John, before I get back to you, McKenna, I want to ask the same question to you that I asked Jocelyn about just people that stood out on an initial watch, those first couple of episodes, who you want to win, who you're vibing with, and all that.
All right. At the time, I'm going to preface this. At the time, I've never resonated with Aurora as much as I did with one of her first confessionals. I'm a lesbian, but I'm in love with Joe Anglem. Like, that was like, at the time, like one of Joe Anglem's biggest fans, was so excited to see him back. Like, I just had loved him from all of his seasons, so I was happy to have him back. And then when Aurora was like, yeah, I like women, but I'm also like, Joe's so pretty, I was like, you know what? Yes.
How old were you, for the record? How old were you when the season aired?
When did the season air?
8 years ago.
Yeah.
21?
Oh, so you're not one of the kids that when Jeff's like, Joe, the kids just really relate to you. I was going to give you the pass,
but so some other standouts for me, I was all in on Kama because I liked Joe, so I was going to root for that side of things. So like Gavin and Victoria were some of my favorites watching them play. Victoria especially. I think she is an amazing player, and when you think like villains in Survivor, she's not one that comes to your head automatically, but she is like one of my favorite villains because she is so cold and calculated, and it's not in a Russell Hantz way where he can be cold and calculated. She makes allies, makes friendships, is nice, but will cut you if she needs to. And I think she is just like top tier.
And then John, round us out.
I was all in on like the Lesu group here. Mostly like David aspect of it, so like kind of like your forlorn Lesu in the end, but that group's just so much fun. I think War Dog is one of the greatest Survivor characters of all time. You cannot take that man seriously. He is so funny. Wentworth, I think while everyone might say Wentworth 2.0 is the best version of Wentworth, I think the growth we've seen in the 4 years from Second Chances to this season is very apparent in Wentworth. And I really like the dynamic between her and Lauren in the season. I think it has that like great like sister mentorship role that works really well. And as much as like Rick Devens gets 30 confessionals in the last 3 episodes, he's very entertaining to watch. And it always left the question as to why he was an alternate on Survivor 50, because he was so good here. But a lot of that just came from the fact that people were kind of divided on whether or not they liked him or not.
Well, and it's funny because after this season, everyone's like, Rick's a lock, and he's probably gonna be first boot whenever they do bring it back, because he's Jeff's boy. That means we have to vote him out because we have to hate everything that Jeff likes for some weird reason, because the fandom sucks. But like, yeah, I love Rick this season, I think, and we're going to talk all about Rick a little later in the season. You brought up the Kelly-Lauren dynamic, and I hate making this comparison, but it's similar to the Coach Albert type thing, where they're always like this. Albert is a fan of Coach, and they ride or die. They ride or die later into the game, but that's what, when I think about returnee seasons and someone latching on to the other, I'm not doing Natalie and Rob because everyone says that was just weird, but I never saw it as that. I have to do Coach and Albert because it never felt weird. It just felt like, okay, these two people are crazy and are now leading a cult where one person doesn't care about it and then the other two probably do. I'm kind of killing my own question for later because I feel like the modern day fandom would hate how well this cast gets along with each other.
Yeah.
Because as people get voted out, for the most part, with the exception of like Reem, most of these people are taking their losses very well on the way out. Now we'll get to the edge part of it a little later, but this has been a common occurrence in the 30s, pretty much after Coat Wrong. Everyone just kind of gets along at the end. And when the modern fandom kind of complains about how, there are no fights anymore and all this, like that's been the way since before COVID. Like it's been, even HHH, they're doing it. I actually don't remember what Island of Idols, and I guess I'll find out in a few hours. Manu is the cool kids versus Wendy, Reem, and Keith. At least that's how it's presented, and it does kind of seem like that's what it is. McKenna, just Manu at first glance, what about it?
Oh, there's a lot wrong with Manu. I feel like they didn't balance everybody out right on the tribes. Like it does, I feel, skew a little bit more Kama for physicality and challenge prowess. Mainly Joe is on that tribe. So you need to have 3 other people to balance him out. Now, Wentworth is a very strong challenge performer, but then you throw who you think should be good in War Dog, and you know how he can throw a sandbag. Like, they just don't have the power behind them to even try and fight Kama. Sure, they win like a few challenges here and there, but it's never the ones that count. And they just feel like very dysfunctional, where David is automatically trying to target Wentworth, and then you have War Dog's insane strategy of, I'm going to get out Chris, even though he told me what was going on. They just aren't the Kama cult that is going on, where it's not kumbaya, it's immediate turmoil. And that's not a recipe for success.
And yeah, and they're making if I had to say a qualm I have with it is War Dog specifically, multiple times this season makes big moves for the sake of making big moves, which is something that obviously I hate, and that includes the Chris vote. Jocelyn, to you, you did bring up Big Wendy earlier. On a cast, or at least on this tribe that has a character named Mordog, has two returnees, has Reem, who's very loud. I would say that Big Wendy is the biggest character, not only of this tribe, but of the entire pre-merge. So what was it about Wendy, here for you that made her resonate with you, I guess?
I think it was her authenticity. She is just herself in every moment. It comes through in the way that not only that she presents with her Tourette's, but the way she talks about it, how like for her, she's like, it was weird to me when people were inspired by it because this has never been a thing. It's just my life and I live it. And I think that's just how she lives in general. And the things that she did that were chaotic were fun, chaotic. They weren't like it. Just everything about her was like she is having the best time she can have out there. And what more could you want to watch someone from, especially when it's pretty clear from the beginning they're not going to be a heavy strategist. They're not coming. That's not someone who's winning the game, and that's pretty clear early on. So I just got everything I would have wanted to get from her. She was just cute and spunky and fun and a joy to watch.
Yeah, she doesn't put out fires or anything. She just hides the flint for a couple days and then eventually gives it back. Like she lets out the chickens, but like the chickens never actually go anywhere. They're still just chilling at camp for most of the game. And her confessionals are amazing. We're going to talk about like what happens on the edge a little bit later. We lose, and we'll kind of be done with the premiere with this. And we lose Reem, who I would say probably top 10 first boots ever. And I think because she lingers on the rest of the season, that definitely helps her case. John, just in your personal, where do you kind of have Reem?
I texted McKenna this when I started watching the season last week. Reem is the greatest number one boot of all time. And a lot of that does come from the fact that we are exposed to her for so much more of the season. But more importantly, she's the perfect person to be the first person on Edge of Extinction. She's really, if you watch her in the premiere, everything you remember about Reem comes from her time on Edge of Extinction. Her incessant use of the word dude, her attitude, and all of that comes from subsequent episodes of the season. In the premiere, she's actually like this endearing person who just doesn't want to be the mom archetype, but can't help but being the mom archetype. And then she gets voted out, goes to the Edge, and just is absolute perfection the entire time. The fact that, and you don't really get it until we get further into the merge when the Lessus finally start coming to the Edge, the way she is just like not having any of it with these people, even though it's been weeks since she's been voted out, is so perfect. And it really does encapsulate what the Edge does, right? Because I think something that I'm probably going to talk about a lot in this episode, and it's kind of harking back on something that Jordan Kalish said in your Ghost Island recap, the social game in the strategy game are one and the same. Like they are so pivotally intertwined with each other in the game of Survivor. And what I think people didn't realize with the Edge of Extinction, and it's hard in the premiere because you don't know the twist exists as a player in the game. You don't find out about it until the merge. But the social game is even more important this season than any other season. And the way you treat people is so important. Reem, for lack of a better word, reaming people out as they come to the Edge of Extinction is inherently bad gameplay, but it's fantastic television, and we have to be here for that.
Yeah, if Reem comes back, I still think that she has a good chance because it does feel like by the end of their time on the Edge, everyone's kind of getting along, and if she comes back and does what she has to, fine. But I think that she has a worse chance than a lot of other people because, she's not the welcoming committee for almost anyone that's not Keith, Aubrey, or Ron. I think those are the only three that I remember where she was like being fairly nice to all of them when they show up. Generic white guy gets voted out third because he runs his mouth and gets voted out. That's what's next to my notes. McKenna, the Manu tribe realizes, hey, this voting out weak people thing isn't working. maybe we should try to do something else. And David, you know, as was alluded to earlier, David tries to go after Kelly. Devins is on board. Chris is on board. They tell Chris, don't tell War Dog because War Dog will tell Kelly. And Chris is like, but, you know, back home, it's like this, so I should probably tell War Dog. And War Dog, in the first of many times he does the season of trying to make a big move for shits and gigs, tells Kelly, and we lose Chris here. McKenna, first time watching the season, now knowing that there's going to be people coming back into the game, had you seen enough of Chris to just be like, okay, cool, he's just going to be a guy that's around? Or was it ever in your mind of, I'd be cool if this guy came back?
I never. I mean, he odds on had the chance to come back with Keith and Wendy being the boots right before him. So odds are he's the one coming back. So then as we get further into the boots, you still kind of feel like Chris is favored here because we don't know how sneaky good Rick is at challenges. So I didn't know enough to want Chris back. I feel like you really need to sit with a lot of the pre-mergers to be able to know, like, I actually really like this person. And the fact that you have to like wait such a long time to be okay with Chris until he's like sitting on that rock alone reading his letter, and that's when it's like, oh, Chris is important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe something that contributes to that is Chris doesn't have a confessional in the premiere.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
he's generic white guy. Like he's just there. He's just there. He's the pretty one that's not Eric. And once again, that's the second Eric reference we get tonight. Jocelyn,
you said that was going to be the last.
I know, and I should have just stuck to it. And I just Jocelyn, talking about Chris on the edge, I have right here. Just you see, yes, hindsight and all that. Watching Edge of Extinction every other time, it's like you see a lot of him putting in the time at camp, you know, helping people, being there for people. He's playing the ultimate social game while still with these people. And, you know, when I get to Winners at War in a couple of days, that's something that you've heard that Natalie really wasn't doing when she was on the Edge of Extinction. So for you, Jocelyn, as the first time you watched it, and then this most recent time, did you start to pick up on just Chris as a character in the limited time that we do get him both on the game proper and on the Edge of Extinction?
I did, but I think it's unfortunate that a lot of that required having watched like Ponderosa and extra footage the first time to see him talking about calling his game, you know, if Boston Rob and Ozzy had a baby. That's something that we never see in the game. We never see on the show. We never hear him say that. The Ozzy part of that is very much what he does out at the edge. Catching things, taking care of everybody. That deliberate gameplay, you have to have extra knowledge from seeking out interviews and things that weren't aired to know that that was such a deliberate part of the game he wanted to play. In the edit and in what we see, yeah, you can catch it if you're looking for it, but I don't think it gets highlighted anywhere near enough for the payoff. And it probably means that there's a lot better game played out there than we saw, and a lot of people who could be a lot happier with the outcome than the edit gave us.
And I feel like I can rattle off more edge moments that are pertaining to everybody else except and not Chris. Like Chris, I only have in my head him sitting on a rock. Like I feel like I can name more Eric moments. I can name more Reem moments. I can name, you know, so just some other moments throughout the season, and I don't have Chris anywhere in my mind of like impactful edge.
I think the editors had a hard time figuring out how to edit Chris as a winner. And I think that is because like he's out of the game and he's not interacting, playing the social game. Because there are a lot of moments, and I just checked the confessional account again. There's no episode in the entire season where we don't get any edge, but there are some episodes where we get so little edge you kind of forget it's there, because there's honestly the mid-merge of this season is absolutely spectacular, and there's a lot going on at that point. So we don't get there's not a lot of opportunity to get Chris. And I think it also comes to the fact that like the second return challenge doesn't have any advantages in it. So you don't have the scrambles that we have for the merge return challenge, where they're looking for these advantages and disadvantages on the edge of extinction.
Well, Aubrey has the prisoner's escape.
She gets to practice, and that's the only advantage that we see for the second one. We don't get anything like
the disadvantage.
The disadvantage of the 40 knots, and it's like, man, this dude still almost comes back and wins that first time. McKenna, they obviously, if you watch it live and you haven't watched Survivor whatever season in so long, blah blah blah, you might forget things because we're all super fans, and because of how I do this, when Jeff says, I've never seen a swap like this before, and he asked Gavin, the super fan, yeah, Jeff, I've never seen a swap like this before. I'm sitting there like, what happened in All Stars 3 weeks ago? This is exactly what happened. This is the All-Star.
I think it's because it's the 3 tribes and not like and
exactly what it is.
The 2 in All Stars. But it is a crazy swap the way it breaks down with all commas, all Manu on Lesu, and then just like Wendy and some commas. I mean, that the odds of how that has to break out, I don't think could ever be repeated. It's crazy. But it makes for some good TV in a sense of you get all that Lesu emotion and character development. You get Wendy and Aubrey. But once again, comma is just like thrown to the wayside because they keep winning. And so you have to try and find some story arcs within the episodes that they go home for the other comma people.
I said 3 weeks ago. I guess that would have been 30 days ago, actually. Because we're on season 38, and that happened on All Stars. Just and kind of just sticking with the swap there. Jocelyn, McKenna alluded to, we have to take what we can get with these other I guess it's Lesu at this point, but these non-Lesu tribes. And one of them is basically Victoria blowing all the smoke up Aubrey's ass of, let's just kind of do this. And it's chef's kiss. And it's because at this point in Survivor history, I was not a Aubrey person. I was begging for her to be the first returnee taken out in this game specifically. What were your thoughts on Aubrey 3.0? And what did you think of, this whole storyline of we don't want returnees, especially here? Because we get another, and I'm going to follow it up with, War Dog brings up during the merge, this is just more Guatemala erasure. Hey, every season that has a returnee sit at the end. And he names basically every season that has a returnee except for Guatemala, which also has a returnee sitting at the end. So Jocelyn, yes, just back to my initial question.
So
great question. She's stumped.
I'm sorry.
Aubrey's hard. He couldn't ask you and me, McKenna. We're very clearly Michelle stands on this side of the podcast.
Oh no.
No, go ahead and take it, because I need to think about this one for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so Phil has ingrained in us that Michelle is the GOAT and that she deserves the win. And obviously, I do think she deserves the win. But it kind of did jade me a little bit on Aubrey and her win because of just influence on a podcast that I love. So I wasn't happy when she was in Game Changers, really not excited when she was in Edge, and not that excited when she was in 50, but I was more hopeful in 50 for seeing her than edge because she's just going back to back to back to back to back. And you can't really grow in your gameplay when you're playing that rapidly. Even though there are some years in between, it's still, you need time to process, time to regroup your strategy, where I think she plays the same game 3 times and then finally adapts her gameplay to the season in 50. So I was happy, and I think that move, that big move of getting Aubrey out, wasn't for the sake of big moves. It was actually, it worked. It was strategic. You had Wendy on your side, and now when you go to this next tribal council that's joint, you can just throw Wendy under the bus and your true allies are safe.
And they don't know if she's an idol. Like, it's a big move, and they don't even know how big it is because they vote her out with an idol and an extra
vote.
Extra vote.
Yeah,
an extra
she's
vote.
an extra vote as well.
From I thought she gave that to Aurora.
No, Devins gives it to her.
Rick sends it to her.
Yeah,
Jocelyn?
I didn't. So I felt like anything I was going to say was going to come out meaner at Aubrey than I mean it to be.
No, you're fine. You
and
can say whatever.
Every way I was going to word it, I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to say either. It was, watching her on this was more tolerable than I remembered it being.
And she goes out early.
Yeah, I mean, out. We still have a lot of her. And,
yeah. Don't worry. We're gonna get to the Aubrey of the jury because my God.
Yeah. But so it wasn't great, and I'm not the biggest Aubrey fan, but I'm not like, I don't know. She was fine to watch. She absolutely would have been a replacement for me, and she could have gone all the way out. So.
What I kind of forgot about the season, and John, I'm going to get to you and finish your. I'm going to get to you, but let me just say, I forgot that you could send stuff from the edge into the game this season. I thought it was only a Winners at War thing, and so the fact, like, when that happened today, like that first time with Aubrey, it's like, wait, what? I think I'm all right with how they did it without the fire tokens. You can just send it to whoever. Who gives a shit? John, go ahead.
I actually think this, like, Aubrey Wendy double episode is one of the best pre-merge episodes in the entire series. I think this episode is so good. I think that all the gameplay that happens, there's some terrible gameplay that happens, like Aubrey falling in for this trap that, like, Victoria and Gavin are setting for her. Eric Hafman has one of the worst quotes ever in this. And I texted McKenna about it.
Drink.
Because
Drink.
In the second vote in that episode where it's the joint tribal council, Eric says, what returnee would go to Rocks on their third time playing the game? And, you have to have a little bit of chuckle because that has in fact happened previously.
How many days ago?
Yeah, that, 11 days ago?
But I think the thing with Aubrey in this season, Aubrey in Edge of Extinction is different than we saw Aubrey in Ko-Rong and Game Changers. Because Aubrey in Ko-Rong and Game Changers was still this, like, timid young woman approaching the game who wasn't confident in her skills. And in this one, she's overconfident in her skills. And I think it is actually this great evolution. I think it actually really helps the overall Aubrey story that we now have in conclusion with Survivor 50 to see her go through this point where she's like, okay, I know Survivor. I've played this game. This is my third time playing in 3 years. I'm ready to go. I'm going to be great at this. And then just to, like, get her comeuppance. And the thing is Aubrey even knows it, right? Aubrey acknowledges it on her exit of, holy cow, you guys are playing hard. You're damn good Survivor players.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does just go to show, like, Aubrey, I've never been, like, the biggest Aubrey fan, despite the fact that, like, she kind of fits into an archetype that I generally like in the game. But I can really appreciate what she brought to this season. And I also really like it when hubris gets the best of people in Survivor because it's very entertaining.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, starting a dialogue with so many people, I think can only get you so far when you use the same line of, I'd like to start a dialogue with you.
Yes, and they really bought it. Why does why does Devin send it to Aubrey, not David, do you think? Because my opinion,
it has to be someone going to the next tribal council.
Oh, okay. So that's why. Okay, I definitely missed that then. So we'll just move on. So have you guys seen the American version of The Office?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So there is a scene in, I think, season 2 or 3 where they're playing basketball. Do you know what scene I am talking about?
I think so.
Please describe the scene for McKenna.
It's been a long time since I watched The Office. I cannot describe it for
her. Basically, Michael drafts someone that he thinks can play basketball because of the color of their skin, and it turns out they can't, and it's actually like the worst. Well, watching War Dog throw things today was very similar to that, where it's like, oh, your name is War Dog, and like you're supposed to be this, super military gambler dude, and you don't know how to throw a beanbag. And the music and everything. I think this is one of the moments I texted John today. It is one of the funniest moments of the season because they're just standing there watching him as he even gets back in because someone's arm gets tired, so they give him another go around, and it's so bad. This man has never played an athletic sport in his life except for maybe like track. There is no question and/or comment there unless you want to say something. I just want to point that out.
I need to comment on this because it's like you were saying, like he's a man. He's expected to be able to throw.
Okay, no, not even that. Not even the man part. No, not.
But then Lauren O'Connell just comes in and just starts whipping it. And I'm just
like, college athlete, yeah. But she's a D1 college athlete.
She's using her feet for that. But
she's got to work on her arms.
Whipping this, and I'm just like, so you're gonna like it's that whole like you're gonna let a girl beat you at this, War Dog? And then he's like, all right, wait, I gotta try go back in this because
if you're gonna have a name of War Dog, you have to be able to throw a beanbag. You have to be if you're gonna have a name of War Dog, you have to throw a beanbag. Like have to be able to accurately throw a beanbag. Period. But that is like, yeah, Lauren.
It's a low bar.
It's a low bar, you're right, but don't have that shit tattooed on your body. I think it was right there. If you can't throw a beanbag. We get our first joint tribal, I believe, since Game Changers. Am I making that up? No, probably not.
Not that far away. It's only 4 seasons.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's our only joint tribal council other than Game Changers.
Yeah.
New era?
I don't think it happens.
It's the only one.
And I don't think it happens in Isle of the Idols.
It definitely hasn't happened since season 44 because McKenna and I haven't talked about it on the rewind.
But we have a joint tribal where, once again, we're voting out one person, and basically Wendy is being used by both tribes as both a number and a pretend number. And David, trying to tell Wendy to do something, Wendy stuck to her guns, thank goodness. But we do ultimately lose Big Wendy here at the last pre-merger before the first battle back. Jocelyn, we'll go back to you as far as this tribal specifically. I know we're told on screen people are willing to go to Rocks and all of that. Do you think that anyone actually went in planning to go to Rocks?
No.
Just personal opinion. Okay.
No.
Why is that?
I don't think that the tribe was comprised of people that cared that much about every single person on their side to go to Rocks for them. I just don't think at the end of the day anybody's going to Rocks for Wendy. Like I don't think we have. Yeah, I think both sides of this. I think for an Aubrey and a Wendy, they were both vote out that. I think everybody was kind of like, well, if we can work together, great. But if I have to lose them, so be it.
I think I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I actually think had Lesu put the vote on anyone other than Wendy, that Common Tribe would have gone to Rocks. Or that, I guess they were the Mono Tribe at that point. They would have gone to Rocks. I think what really put this together is the fact that Lesu was like, okay, yes, we're the ones with a connection to Wendy, and Wendy could be beneficial to us in a merge, but it is actually better for us to vote her out here because it prevents us from going to Rocks.
I think Victoria is the one. Like, so Victoria gives a confessional where she says, "I'm not going to Rocks. Like, I'll flip on anyone and blah blah blah." I'm just going to kind of go back to what McKenna was saying earlier about Victoria the character. I think it was McKenna. Of Victoria the character. I think that I think there is a situation where she just flips, because she ends up voting out Julie and Julia,
Julia is the one that gets voted out. Julie's voted since the end of the game.
A little later. So like she's not afraid to vote out people that she's working closely with the exception of Gavin, because she doesn't go after Gavin. Gavin catches no votes. We have the merge, and so I think Kelly's the one that says I knew it about the Edgers coming back. I'm surprised with all the super fans there that no one did do a Die Jerks thing, specifically Reem. Like, that would have been amazing if she had. But we do eventually get all of our attorneys back. And I know that we've all kind of talked about, hey, it should have ended here. It should have been the one returnee, and that's it. The problem is we have a blueprint of how they do this normally, and it's Redemption Island, where we know that we're going to get 2 people back every time. And I've talked about it ad nauseum during the Redemption Island seasons of, if so-and-so comes back, do they win, and how do the fans receive them? Well, we get Rick Devens here, and yes, to answer my own question, I feel like he would have been received very well if he had won the game, until he became Jeff's boy, and all of a sudden we have to hate him now. McKenna, for you, going into this, were you actively rooting for anyone to get back in the game? Please don't say Joe. But were you actively rooting for anyone specifically to get back into the? Oh yeah, no, Joe's still in the game.
I was like, I can't say no.
Yeah, Joe's still in the game. Yeah, not yet. Yeah, Joe's still in the game. Were you actively rooting for anyone specifically to get back in the game? And what did you think of the advantages and disadvantages? Do you feel like they were fair based off of what was the challenges presented?
I feel like I would have to say Devens was my only rooting interest. But at the same time, I didn't really know much about Devens. I just know, with his tribal council, they didn't want to vote him out. He just had to leave because they were all in alliance and all went to tribal council together. So that would be like the fairest, I guess, of the people to get back. So when he got back in, I was happy about that. And then the second part of your question was,
what do you think of the advantages and disadvantages as far as how they impacted the challenge? Do you think they were fair, I guess?
Okay, so the advantage was a practice session, and then disadvantage knots.
Was 40 knots. Yes.
Yeah. I feel like the knots are, how long did they slow Chris down? Like, I feel like that wasn't a significant disadvantage. I think it would have had to been something different to be able to be a disadvantage, because some people can whip through knots, no problem. Maybe it's adding weight to Chris, so he has to deal with 10 pounds or something extra going throughout this course. Maybe that could be the disadvantage. And then being able to practice is always helpful. So I think that is a pretty good advantage. But knots,
I think it's really hard to evaluate exactly the impact of these advantages and disadvantages in this challenge, because we don't see this entire challenge, and we know that for a fact.
Yeah. Because
we only see them have to put one ball up the snake to get back into the game. We know for a fact that they actually had to do it twice. So this is really a big instance of how close was this really? We don't really know. From what it sounds like, it was in fact fairly close, but it's nuts. Like McKenna said, right?
It's nuts.
There are 2 things you're supposed to practice. There are 3 things you need to practice going into Survivor, and that's swimming, that's making fire, and it's learning how to untie knots.
Very easy knots, but knots nonetheless. Yes. John, we're going to stick with you, and we'll make this an around the horn type question. Is leaving the edge for you personally considered quitting?
That's a really good question, because I am a pretty staunch believer that the edge of Extinction is a part of the game, and you're still in, despite the fact that you've been voted out of the game. I've come around to the idea that, and I texted this to you, Coach, when we were as you were starting the season, you kind of have to view the edge of Extinction as another tribe throughout the season. And with that mentality, you would think so, but I I don't think so, because you are still you're voted out of the game, and it's an opportunity. Is it a quit of the game? No, because you're out of the main game. However, you're still giving up your chance to win the game. So it kind of falls into this weird gray area, and I hate having to kind of be like a fence sitter on this one, but I do not say it's a quit. It's just being like, okay, I gave it a shot. I'm done. I'm not going to take my check. It's kind of like if you're playing a video game and you die, and that's the continue screen comes up, and you click no. Mm-hmm. Are you quitting the game, or are you just like, I'm good?
I like that analogy. That's a perfect analogy. Jocelyn?
I think for me, it technically counts as a quit. It's quitting, but it's a quit like a leaving for a family medical quit. It's a quit where you're still invited to the reunion and potentially a future season. It's not a judged quit. It is a quit. You're leaving when you still have the potential to be in the, you're on the edge, but you can get back in. So how is that different than being there and able to be voted out in some ways? You know what I mean? You still have a chance to win the game. You're in the game in some level of this version of the game, the way they've introduced it this season. So it's technically a quit, but I don't judge it the same way as like a walk-off quit.
Yeah. And then McKenna.
I like everybody here. I think there is this gray area with this, but at least they tried the first challenge, where yes. I would judge it a little bit more, unless you're Sandra. Because I feel like, what chance does she have? Like, I would judge it a bit more if they didn't participate in this first challenge and know, oh, I was like dead last, or like I wasn't close to winning. I mean, Wendy was, so I feel like Wendy should have stayed a little bit longer. But if it also depends on your level of fandom too. Mm-hmm. Like, if you were recruited, or if you applied for a different show, but they were like, maybe Survivor, if it's not your love, then why suffer for longer when you can go to Ponderosa and have a blast? Like, you did it, you tried, it didn't work. So I'm gonna call it here. Thanks everyone. I do look at them a little bit less, but not in the sense of, like Hannah from 45. Yes.
Who, for the record, once again, quit for Zens. I have to say that.
I think this would count as a quit if they were not given the option to go to the edge in the first place, and they were forced to go to the edge. So, like on Redemption Island, you get voted out, you have to go to Redemption Island. Mm-hmm. Every single person, when they get voted out of this game, walks down a path and they see that signpost. You either go left to go to the edge of Extinction, or right to just leave the game. And I think because that option is there, we can't fault people for deciding to leave the edge and say it's quitting the game, when it is, again, a mechanic of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're I know the people in game are struggling, but they're really dying. Like, I don't know why for me today, like, it really hit me when Chris was taking on that first reward. It's like, because this man hadn't eaten shit in like, 4 weeks?
They had to climb up a mountain every time they needed rice.
To get a cup of rice a day.
Tiny bit of rice, yeah.
Yeah, I and the fact that he's still steamrolling through that first immunity challenge, whatever immunity challenge it was, that he like is very clearly in better shape than everybody. It's like, I wish. So the merge happens, and the only thing I have right here is Joe loses that merge and goes home because Joe sucks. And once again, we're just talking about in the game where, and I didn't remember this, when everyone's strategizing, Joseph's painting the flag. He feels comfortable with his people, even though he spent the pre-merge saying, oh, I feel like people are going to paint me as a target because I'm Joey Amazing and all of that. Yet when he does lose, he's just willy-nilly. And they bring, like, it's not just being shown this. We are seeing confessionals and or people bringing up at Tribal of oh yeah, Joe just kind of sat at camp and did this all day. It's like, okay, so that was a thing that was prevalent during the day. John, this is probably the end of Joe on the show, probably. Who's to say?
Not if the finale's to be believed.
Who's yeah, well, yeah, where Jeff says if you cut your hair, you'll be better, and then we see what happened when he cut his hair. John, for you, if this is the end of Joe here, which version did you prefer? 1, 2, or 3? They're all the same to me, so that answers my own question.
They're literally the exact same. Like, he plays the game the exact same way. Rests on his laurels of his challenge prowess, and then like doesn't spend time building social connections. Even though I think I'd probably have to give it to Cambodia Joe as the best Joe. So 2.0, just because that does seem to be the point where he's reflecting most on his game, despite the fact that he literally watched his season air and then got on a bus to go play Survivor again, which I don't think is a great way of doing it. But I think it's just one of those things where it's like there was no adaptation in his game this time. He was on the bottom of his tribe immediately, kind of saw that him and Aubrey and Aurora were on the outsides, and brings that information to Wentworth when we get to the merge, but doesn't do anything with it.
Doesn't do anything about it.
Okay, I have to speak my mind on Joe because I think he is one of the best allies, spoiler alert, to have, because he's winning immunity. He's loyal AF. So you know the other side is most likely not winning the immunity, and you can still control the vote. You know he's going to stick to you because he has no social or strategic game. So if you can just bring him along as that shield, and I just think he is a person you want to bring deep. Like, why not bring him to Final Tribal Council? What's he gonna do there? Talk out of his ass? Great, another vote for you. Like, I think he is this character that, you know, Ron should have fought for instead of be sketched out by it. Like, Joe was so far in Ron's pocket and was so loyal to Ron that Ron could have ran the tables and then not gotten blindsided when he did, because he had a few more allies.
I think part of the issue of having Joe as your ally is that if he's winning immunity, you're going after Joe's allies. Right?
You go for the other side.
Yeah, if you're playing a middling game, or if you're like on his side. But the problem is the other side will be voting for Joe's allies if they can't get Joe, because he's winning all the immunities. So you have to weaken him socially and strategically instead.
I still think that Joe is a pretty decent ally to have on your side, rather than get out as soon as you can. Like in Cambodia, they let him go a round or two without having immunity because they didn't need to get him out yet. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think the merge boot is ever Joe's time to go. He's never that threatening.
I mean, I guess if you've watched Cambodia like recently in real time, like they had in this season, it's like, oh man, he basically was winning all. If you're sizing up your cast right now compared to the Cambodia cast, and it's like, okay, there's a very good shot that Joe could just actually steamroll these immunity challenges, even though we've never seen that happen ever, where someone just wins all of them. If you're looking at your cast compared to the Cambodia cast, you could say, I mean, he could. He's probably not going to, but maybe we take. But yes, you are right. You're also right that like he's never going to win the game. He's never like as much as people like to put these physical threats as like actual end game threats. They're most of the time not. You could just sit here and say Joe's dumber than a box of rocks and Matthew Perry played me in a movie and you can give them $1 million. All right. It's never going to be Joe sitting next to, I don't know. Like he sits next to anyone in Cambodia. His best chances in Worlds Apart, because it seems like those people kind of really bought into the Joey Amazing type thing. But we do ultimately lose Joe here. And then the storyline becomes everyone hates Aurora. for reasons. Everyone just kind of hates Aurora because she exists as a person.
She's the
Jocelyn, what did you think of
the Aubrey Joe situation?
Yeah, which is just what
hate.
Jocelyn, what do you think of the everyone versus Aurora thing, specifically when the show kills Lauren during the endurance challenge?
That's the part where, for me, I'm like, okay, is there a lot of Aurora stuff that we're not seeing? That, like, did this come out of nowhere and that's why she feels like she can speak up this way or needs to? Or is there a bunch of that we didn't see and that's why this has already shifted in that direction by the time we get campaigning over a passed out body?
John?
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is that we're just not being. I think Survivor already has a hard time showing a good social game. They have a really hard time showing a bad social game. And it's really hard to edit it in a way where you can truly understand why people aren't getting along with someone. There is no way they are reacting the way that Aurora in the challenge where Lauren passes out the way they are, unless there's like some pre-context to that. And keeping in mind, like Aurora is the only comma other than Joe kept out of that Joe boot, because the people who put votes on Joe are all comma. And so Aurora is feeling on the outs. She's lost her only ally in the game. Presumably, there had to have been some sort of like minor blow up afterwards. And because this was, as you've kind of alluded to sometimes here, Coach, in your rewatch, like we're getting to the era where Survivor's kind of getting scared to showing conflict. And they don't want to paint their people in as bad of a light. And I think it was really like response to both Worlds Apart originally and then the Varner incident as well. I think they really tried to shy away from showing these like people as bad people just for the sake of being bad people. I don't think Aurora's doing that really, but I think they're really being very cautious about how they present people in the show if it's not relevant to the storyline. So in the end, what we get here is like we're just not getting a lot of a heavy edit for Aurora.
It's a disconnect.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a disconnect there, and you brought that up, and it's a good point, because when I was watching Reem go off on when Reem was going off on Kelly a little later, when Reem was going off on Kelly at the Edge of Extinction, it's like, oh, look, conflict. But it's immediately followed up by Reem saying, we had to kind of get it out there because we were all hurt by this. Like, we're getting context to the conflict. It's not just Sandra and Johnny fighting in Pearl Islands and be like, okay, yeah, screw this person. Oh, screw this person. It's like, no, I had to get this out because I felt hurt that Kelly got rid of me at the beginning of the game. And I do value that as much as I value Sandra hating Johnny and Johnny hating her. This is the part of the season where it is really picks up. And I love the pre-merge. I love the swap. I love Joe getting voted out. I love Lauren not dying during the endurance challenge and generic white number 2 going home that episode. But then everything after that is so great that even in episodes where it's like, yeah, okay, it's very obvious that this person's going to go home, the David Wright episode specifically, I'm sat, as the kids say, starting with the tribal council of the season, maybe second. We'll kind of get you guys' opinions on this. The Julie jump ship tribal, because I think it's 2 segments. It's 2 segments of them just going at it, and Jeff just lets it happen, which I was happy with. One, this is where we start the Aubrey as an annoying camera jockey juror, because she just has to do all these exaggerated facial expressions. She's not Eliza Orleans. I love Eliza as a juror. I don't like Aubrey as a juror. Anyway, this is where the game just kind of turns. And for such a not a unanimous, but a close to a unanimous vote at the end of this, a lot of stuff kind of gets aired out. Jocelyn, for you, 1, is this your favorite tribal of the season? But 2, what did you think of them letting them argue this long and everything that kind of goes into it?
I don't know that I could have a favorite tribal of this season. Start off with the set for the tribal for this season's insane. So from jump, it's like walking in, you're like, oh my God, I'm in. Julie sitting in laps is really, really great, though. And I don't know. There's so many live tribals. There's so many crazy. Yeah, no, I think Julie actually literally sitting in people's laps has to be my number one. This is my number one. Yeah.
McKenna?
I mean, you can't beat like pilots and passengers in this, but you also have later on in the season, the double fake idol play is great. You have, there are so many good moments during this season that it's hard to pick, but at the same time, this one is just so explosive that it really grabs your attention. But it's also, what the heck is going on? And then Julia Carter goes home.
Yeah.
Like, it just feels so like this whole big hullabaloo was just for Julia to go home.
Yeah, but it's such a turning point in the season. And I think that's important,
sure.
right? Like, and watching this as it airs live, and you're sitting there at 8:30, and you're like, why are we going to tribal council?
Yeah.
Right? Like, this tribal council is literally half of this episode.
That's crazy.
It is half the episode. And we had like little hints. You finally get like, I think Julia gets a few more confessionals this episode than she does in any other episode. She has 3, which she had in the episode before. She had 3 in 2 consecutive episodes here.
She's on comma the entire time and winning.
But she starts picking up and you're like, okay, is Julia like making a play here? What's going on? And you get Julie kind of like being like, oh, well, like, and it's been seeded the last little while about how Ron and Eric are kind of running the show on comma. And there has to be a way to like get that down and just picking up, like Lesu does such a good job of picking up the people who are on the bottom of the comma, right? Picking up Julie, picking up Aurora, later picking up Victoria and Gavin. Like, they do such a good job of maneuvering these people as it becomes clear who's on the bottom. And this tribal council, it's technically, like, we refer to it as the pilots and passengers tribal council, but that analogy is actually said in the Eric tribal council and then brought up again here. Mm-hmm. And I think why we refer to it here is because one of the biggest comments in this is Julia saying, Rick, you're such a passenger, and it makes Rick go off. The big analogy in this tribal council is actually the Sharks and Minnows and David Wright pooping.
Yes.
But it's so
or
good.
Hi, Remember Me.
Yeah. Oh, Hi, Remember Me is just such a fantastic... The conversation of David and Kelly being like, okay, what was the plan? And Kelly's just like, yeah, it was totally you. And the fact that it gets to this point where everyone's kind of just trying to figure out what's going on. There's confirmations of plans. Kelly asks Julia, okay, what's this plan? What are we doing? I legitimately, sitting here waiting to watch this, put this tribal council on again because it's so exciting. And then you get the moment of Julie just being like, I'm flipping. I'm done. And it's so good.
Shut Up War Dog also is
Shut Up War Dog. Shut Up War Dog. Well, so once again, pulling back the curtain, the Eric drink boot was the episode that I did my mandatory like close my eyes so I don't have to look at the screen type thing to get my head right. And then by the time it hits this tribal, I'm like, okay, let me sit up and actually watch this in real time because it is you can't miss anything. And I'm not the biggest fan of live tribals. They can be fun, and this is one of them because as much as we don't know and how we don't really understand why she goes out at the end of the tribal, it's just so entertaining because you're watching all these people. Once I keep going back to the David and Kelly thing of like, oh yeah, we were gonna vote you, and it's all fine, it's all good. No matter, we're all still able to get on the same page somehow. But we also understand that tomorrow night or tomorrow, we're all gonna be in all over the place. And so when we ultimately get out of this episode, we go into another double episode. I'm fairly certain.
It's a single episode with 2 boots in it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Where bring up your boy War Dog again. War Dog, and in a long line of just doing crazy stuff to do crazy stuff. War Dog makes a final 6 at the first part of the episode, and by the end of it, he has broken that final 6 because big moves. Jocelyn, I already have John's opinion on War Dog. What were your thoughts on War Dog this season? Because he was someone that my first time watching, I don't get it. I love him as a character, like other people love Coach as a character.
I think that's where I'm at. I think we've had enough Coach and Coach Light that War Dog is that archetype without driving me insane in the same way. So if you're going to cast that archetype, then War Dog's fun to watch. He's an idiot sometimes. He does have decent strategy sometimes. He puts up a fight. He'll go in and think that he's the top guy in chart. As far as that archetype that I don't love seeing, he's my preferred version of it at this point.
Yeah.
I think War Dog's most accurate comparison is actually Q. I think those two are pretty similar. They can have strategic moments when the light switch turns on, and then when it's just off, it's just so chaotic.
The comparison that is not accurate is what I messaged John earlier when people were calling him, oh, he's just a knockoff of Tony. It's like he's not.
What?
He's not. So this is the era, like we've gotten out of the people comparing each other to Russell Hantz. Now it's people decide, oh, well, Joe Minna and fucking War Dog are just Tony knockoffs. It's like, because they're bald?
Yeah, that's why.
Like that is it. Like Joe goes after idols, but if every bald person that ever went after idols is Tony,
bald
then
and aggressive,
they look like they might have grown up in the same neighborhood, so they must be the exact same person and player. Like
War Dog's got some weird ass tattoos going on, and also a Brooklyn Nets one. Like, it's I don't like the comparison because I still have Tony like over here is his own thing. Tony's his own thing, and I feel like Joe and War Dog are their own things. I don't put any of them in the same category. And yes, Jocelyn, you brought up War Dog having decent strategy, and he does. He is the one that I think he's the one that says, Wendy, we need to, like, when we go to that split vote, we need to do Wendy.
Yeah.
He's closer with Kelly, so he tells her that Chris wants to come after her because they're allies. I get it, I guess. Here, though, in the first half of this episode where he makes his final 6, it's like, okay, he's got 3 on his end, he's got 3 on the other end. Everyone's kind of on the same page after this last vote. Let's see what happens. We get rid of David, I think, here, and then all of a sudden, it's Kelly Wentworth as a threat. We should get rid of her. It's like, but why? It reminded me today. It reminded me of Gabby last season. At final 8 or 9, Gabby decides she wants to go after Christian because he's a threat. And War Dog's doing this now, understanding that he could be painted as the next logical threat after that. John, what did you think of how War Dog kind of tackled this whole thing?
I think we missed something in the edit. I think there has to be something here that says why War Dog decides to flip on Kelly, who has easily been one of his closest, if not his closest ally the entire game. Maybe he's concerned that, as Gabe says in the comments here, that she could go on an immunity run. Maybe it's just because eventually War Dog is kind of the odd man out of this Lesu 3 that's remaining here, with Lauren as the third, because Lauren and Kelly are so close. Maybe there's a concern about that. Maybe it is like one of those instances of like, okay, if I get Kelly out here, Lauren comes to me and is closer. Or maybe it's just because he wants to position himself in a place where he can be fluid in the game. I think it's too early to do that type of move here, but ultimately I can't fault him for being like, hey, this returning player, who is the only returning player left in the game now, needs to go.
Yeah. McKenna?
War Dog.
So War Dog.
This move is just, I feel like he could have still ran with that Lesu 3. of bring it to 5 with Gavin and Victoria or with Julie and Ron, then he's in the swing position because it's 2 pairs. Maybe he does still go out 4th, but that's better than what he's got now.
Yeah. And there are no throwing challenges later, so like he has a good chance at winning. Like,
he could win Final 4.
Could win. But inevitably he gets voted out as a big move for everyone else because they see him as a threat now, which is what happens. Well, I mean, Gabby gets clocked before she can pull it off, but this is it's a callback to Millennials vs. Gen X where every round it's, hey, if you establish yourself as the big move person, you're going to go. And that it's hubris, whatever you want to call it. We lose War Dog here, and then once again, and Joss, we're gonna get to you right here. Once again, we get, I would say, first or second best tribal of the season. Of hey, now it's Rick Devon's time to go. He's got to go, and Ron gives him his advantage menu, which I forgot to bring up at the beginning of this. But hey, we got more advantages this season. This time it's a menu. Ron gives Devins his advantage menu for shits and gigs, just to like mess with them a little bit or embarrass him in front of his kids, as Rick says.
He lays it on so thick. It's so funny.
Jocelyn, that's where the Rick Devon show starts for me. This is also the episode where where Aurora goes through his bag. So just a lot happening here. What kind of stood out to you in this episode?
So the Devon show started for me a couple episodes before, but this is officially where the Ron show fully stops for me. Sitting at the family visit, talking to his husband about people in front of their faces when I get that they're having their own conversation, but there's 4 of them and they're not loud. Like there's just, this is where the decisions, although I love the fake menu give. Because of the way it plays out and because of the love that I have for Devins at this point, it's perfect for me. If it had hurt Devins, I think on first watch, and had we not gotten Devins back, I think I would have been just as excited for it to work for Ron too. I think it's really interesting that this is a weird situation where either way, I think I kind of would have been like, oh, that was fun the way it happened. So, but Devins being able to come back, well, the bag search being too early, the fake idol play, the real, like it's peak Devins. I have a note saying I can't believe the family visit talk paid off because it legitimately is a great family visit episode. I cried my ass off in it. Like it's such a good family visit episode, and we hear so much talk about the family visit leading up in this season leading up to it that like it's nice that the family visit is legitimately a really, really nice episode too. But I just Rick Devons, the man that you are. It's beautiful. I love it. It's so fun to watch.
John?
Okay. I have so much to say about this episode. McKenna and I have covered this episode on the Rewind before because it's honestly, like, again, one of my favorite episodes. And there are so many little aspects of it. I think the chat at the family talk sounds a lot louder than it actually is. I think it's just because they're mic'd and they've mixed it up. I'm sure it is a lot quieter than we think it is because everyone is right there.
Even whispering feels like such a bad idea.
Maybe there was background music. I don't know.
I don't know. I can't possibly think Ron Clark is sitting there thinking, yes, I could just have this conversation in front of
literally
everyone.
Just kicking totally his feet and giggling like I have them all.
But this is like it's the anti-penultimate episode of the season. This is where the Devon's show does pick up, and a lot of that has to do with him, getting this like again. Ron and Julie giving him this advantage menu makes absolutely no sense. It is kind of a clowning thing, but it's kind of like this. Okay, maybe we can see how this goes. But then him finding an idol right afterwards is fantastic. It's also the idol that's above the shelter, which comes back later, which is fantastic. This family visit, I think, is one of my favorite family visits in the entire show. I just think I think they edited a little poorly because Jeff says, cue the music, and they've already started playing the music. I mean, that was easy. Editors, come on, you can figure that one out. But like Becca coming in and like Rick being so happy about it, and then you get like the double whammy of the two dads, and then you cap it off with, I mean, Ron's husband, and then you cap it off with Gavin's wife, Carly, coming, and you get the story of like, yeah, like we had to move our wedding up a week because it was supposed to happen when we were filming, so we had to push it up, and I left immediately afterwards. It is one of those really emotional family visits, and it's one of the reasons why I miss the family visits now. And then it's capped off with like this fantastic episode. Yes, it showcases a lot of Rick Devens, but more importantly, this episode shows so much Ron Clark. And I will let McKenna wax about Ron Clark because I know McKenna loves Ron Clark, but he is one of the most underrated villains we have in Survivor. And he is maybe the best villain we have in this entire 10-season stretch.
Yeah, I think he is just such a great character because he is strategic, he is social, that if he were to play again, he probably has the Mike White effect of 50, so it won't be fair because of his, watch parties and everything like that. But if he were to play again, I think he has a lot more longevity because after watching his game play out, seeing, how it was received, I know he would be able to tweak that to be able to, last to the end. When doing a villains draft, I drafted both him and Victoria because I think they are some of the best villains that we've seen. And I think it's just a testament to the Edge of Extinction cast, where it's just, I would gladly see the majority, even white guy number 2, on another season. What
was his name again?
Eric.
Oh, Eric. Okay. Cheers.
It was just such a solid cast, and everyone interacted so beautifully that, like, I think if I were to want another season to, go back again, it's Edge of Extinction. Like, everybody fires on all cylinders here, and Ron's rise and downfall is just so beautiful. And he really is. It really is such a shame that we probably won't see him back and can't see him back because of, the fame that he's gotten with his watch parties.
I think the way he weaponizes the family visit in this season, Jocelyn, you mentioned it, right? Like we hear so many times, especially in the Eric Heifman, it's actually in the Eric boot that it gets mentioned the most, of this idea of like comma sticking together until the family visit. And that's like their marker that they are working for because they're like, okay, this is when we can keep together. The way Ron weaponizes that is magnificent. It is so fantastic. It's such a great read, like strategic and social read of his tribe and how to make his tribe stick together. And the fact that he is the one who is going against it early on, right? He's the one who's like, okay, Joe, you can't do this. Yes, he gets blindsided with the Eric vote, but then is back on it when you get to like the Julia vote, right? He flips around and he is still kind of in control this entire time. In fact, the episode that you just mentioned, Coach, where the David boot, him and Julie find themselves in the swing position in that episode where they are offered 2 alliances of 6. Like he was in such a position, he was really controlling this game, and it was a really good snipe. And everyone was probably really lucky that Rick found an idol to idol out Ron in this instance. Otherwise, Ron might have been the winner of the season.
Because because Rick votes for Aurora here. Like it's only
Gavin we haven't talked about the best move of this entire episode.
Yeah, and
Lauren and Victoria being like, okay, Victoria, Gavin, you guys are going to put your votes on Ron in case Rick does have an idol, and then convincing Aurora to give Gavin, who has immunity, the extra vote so that they can put 3 votes on Ron.
McKenna, just anything you want to add to either Ron Clark, because apparently he's your boy, but just anything dealing with this episode, this tribal, because it is, I won't say it's all downhill from there because we do get a lot of good shit after this, but like this is this is pretty peak.
I think this move with Aurora is great too. Of, oh wait, I'd like let me just give you my extra vote because we know it won't get, you know, tainted because you have immunity. So you'll always have it because you're always going to go and vote. Because what if I'm in the tie? So that's something that like I wouldn't have been thinking about. So every time I watch that, it's always such an underrated move of Aurora trusting the crew, and also them with this tumultuous relationship with Aurora, and Ron being one of the only ones that's reaching out to Aurora, having her go against that.
It is the final 7, so it is it's never mentioned in the episode, but it is very likely that the extra vote was expiring this round too.
Aurora does say like,
she says
yeah.
And all of y'all kind of bring me to my main point of this season. Of it is, for me, it's the Vanuatu of the new era. Of people just, I've seen Vanuatu once, whatever. I've seen Edge of Extinction once, whatever. It's like, no, just watch it one more time, and you'll get it. Just watch it when I did the marathon the first time. I got back to school, and a lot of my students were like, "Oh, coach, like, what are a couple seasons that I should watch?" And I gave them Micro and I gave them Edge of Extinction, which is weird, but I gave them Micro and I gave them Edge of Extinction because Edge of Extinction, even at that point where it still wasn't that high for me, it's like, this is just fun. It's just a fun watch from beginning to end. There's never a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to, like, I paused today to go get food instead of just like, okay, I'll just let it run real quick while I go out and grab something and come back. Like, I paused because I wanted to watch the entire thing, without, filling in, 5-minute gaps or whatever. And I think just because of what this end game is even like, where, yes, Rick Devens is the odds-on favorite and all of that, but like, you could see a world where Victoria wins. You could see a world where Gavin wins, or Ron even. You could see a world where Aurora wins, maybe because people keep putting this threat label on her because she's won 2 immunities. And she's been playing from the bottom the entire time, and not to mention anyone that comes back from the edge. Not to mention Lauren. It's such a fun time, and I think that people really put this. Oh, but the ending though, the ending's not the best. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, I honestly, I hate making this comparison because I actually like the ending to this movie, but I know a lot of people don't. The Mist. This is the second time I've mentioned The Mist in like a week or a year. But The Mist, I know a lot of people don't like the way The Mist ends. I do, but let's say that, let's say I'm wrong. Let's say the ending is shit. Who cares? Because The Mist is still a fun movie until then. So the end, yes, it's not the best depending on who you're watching, but if you can't find merit in this and what we're going to get to in a little bit, I'm sorry. Like, this is. Are you going to hate Burton if he wins Pearl Islands? Probably not. Are you going to hate Ozzy? Are you going to hate Ozzy for winning South Pacific? Because in that situation, it's not him coming back in the merge. It's him coming at the merge, getting voted out, and then coming back again at the end of the game. And if Ozzy comes back at the end of the game and wins that, we are now working at the same level as Chris, because Ozzy does come back at the end of the game and wins the game, and it's pretty much established that he wins that game. I don't know. It's not frustrating. I think it's still more frustrating with the Vanuatu hatred. But Edge of Extinction, it's good on any other watch after your first, and we haven't even gotten to like the actual good stuff that we have left in this. Any other thoughts before I move on to kind of the finale, the penultimate finale?
To your point, so my wife had never seen Edge of Extinction, and we were going through all the seasons before we hit 50, because she needed to know the glory that is Rick Devens. But I gave her as much information about a season as possible, about the season as possible before watching it. So it's almost like she is watching it on that second time. And as we have watched other seasons, I've tried to be like, do you want to know what happens next? But this time I was like, here's literally everything about this season. Okay, now watch. Because then you have the joy of watching Edge of Extinction for the second time and or subsequent times after that. And I just think it is perfect on a rewatch because then you can appreciate everyone's game a bit more.
Yeah. Just quickly, Rick finds another idol. It's crazy because I've never heard the conspiracy theories that they were planting them for Rick, only for Ben, because as we all know, Survivor's only rigged it for Ben ever, and not anyone else. Or
well, it's because he won the game, and Rick didn't. So clearly, it couldn't be rigged for him.
So it had to be rigged. So Rick finds another idol.
The coin is rigged too.
Yes. We get the battle back. Chris wins, and from here, the Chris storyline. Oh no, go
before we get to the battle back, can we just talk about the I actually think the penultimate episode of this season is really good because you see a lot of gameplay from Julie and Lauren and Victoria in this episode to make it like there's a lot of conversation about like is Aurora, and Aurora is also playing really hard here. This idea of essentially of like, is it better to sit at the end of the game with Julie or Aurora? And they both put in so much work here with these other girls in order to make sure that like Aurora is actually the person going home here.
Yeah, one of y'all or all of y'all brought up the fact that these players are playing the entire season, and like we still have the big moves and all that, but like people are just out there playing Survivor. And I mean, Jeff even brings up at one point, we've seen one advantage and one idol this entire season. It's like, and you see how fun it's been anyway. Like we didn't need the dark cloud of this potentially happening, yes, but we haven't gotten a lot of that until we get to this point. This is because everyone is playing. Yeah, it sucks that Aurora is being hated on by everyone, but guess what? She's making it to the penultimate episode. She makes it to the penultimate episode without ever having any real control, but also being on the right side, sometimes being on the wrong. Everyone at some point or another gets caught off guard. Even Gavin, who always who doesn't catch a vote, but he's caught off guard once, I believe. It's what I wish the 30s had been the entire time, and not just let's just reshuffle the deck this round. This is why the rock draw in 33 is always just like, why are you going to rock for people that you know you're going to flip on tomorrow? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense why you would do that. And once again, I'm not going to say where Edge of Extinction is yet, because we're going to get to that at the end, but it's damn good. It's damn good. Jocelyn, Chris makes it back into the game. And this is where John used the word his perfect game begins. I think he's in it for 8 days, or how many days?
9 days in total.
Okay.
He's voted out on day.
Oh, I'm talking about his second tenure in the game.
His second one, he's in it for 4 days.
6 days? Oh, I thought it was 6 days.
I can look. I have the Wikipedia open right now.
Oh.
As we're just randomly throwing out single-digit numbers.
Somewhere between
Aurora goes home day 34. He enters the game again day 35. So 4 days.
4 days. Okay, so 4 days. Oh, okay. So Jocelyn won the second time around. Who are you rooting for to get back into the game? And once Chris is in, do you think he has a chance in hell of winning based off of what you have seen so far in the season?
I think maybe Wentworth at this point. She'd really grown on me. I don't know that on rewatch, like, I don't know that I was rooting for, like, I knew what was happening, so I don't think, but no, I didn't think there was any chance that Chris was going to win. We hadn't seen anything that had, I felt like he was coming back in and there was no way that there was enough game left for him to demonstrate anything to have a win. It just, what we had seen from the Edge wasn't enough for me to be like, this late in the game he's going to come back in and convince. Admittedly, on my own part, did not consider the fact that these were the people he was living with, and the social part of it was really just thinking like, we've seen no game. How does he get a win at this point?
McKenna, we, at least from what we're shown on screen, we're this close to getting your boy back. And Joe, like we're damn close to getting your boy back, and I fear for this season. Like, I still think he probably loses at the end, but he also probably wins every immunity from then until, because I think that he's beating any of the final 5 that we have left there. I just based off of track record, for all we know, he loses first round and then he's gone. For you, so what is his name? Chris. Chris comes back in with all of this information. You know, John mentioned earlier he's basically playing on a tribe with all these people for a very long portion of the game. You know, with the exception of Reem at this point, he's been there the longest of people that haven't left. How do you think, like, just this first round of him being back? What are your thoughts on how he navigates this? Because he does a lot, even in this one round.
He has all of the tools in his tool belt to have a successful last end game push. He has a note from Ron for Julie of like, you should work with Chris because he's a good guy. And so Julie now wants to work with Chris. You have, Lauren playing her idol for him to survive the vote. You have Chris ingratiating himself with Devins because Devins already knows about the half idol situation. So now they're good. So he's literally covering every base he can possibly cover to get himself one round further, because all he needs is one round further and then another round for, like, he's playing for, yes, the win, but also let me get to the next round and then see what I can do.
Yeah, he's basically playing circles around people. Yes, with the blueprint, but he's able to get Lauren's idol out of the game. He's able to make a deal with Rick, the biggest threat in the game. He's able to make sure that no one tries to come after him, at least that first round, without playing his idol. John, you had messaged me earlier about something that you noticed this time with Chris. Is it 5 or 6, or is it something a little later than 5 or 6?
It's 4.
Oh, okay. So we'll get to that. Okay, so we'll get to it. Okay, so we'll get to that. Yeah. So we have the final 6 tribal where Lauren does play her idol that she's been sitting on since day 2 for Chris when she doesn't have to, because Chris has told her, because Kelly ran her mouth, that Lauren has an idol and he gets away without having to play his and is still safe. At 5, this is one.
Remember, he can't play his idol there.
He can't because he needs to survive.
Yeah, he can't. He has to give it away. Yeah. At 5 is the Rick Devin show, where he just trolls the shit out of everyone and places all these fake idols. He's just running around having it. If you want to compare Tony to someone, you compare Tony to Rick here in this specific episode, but Tony in Game Changer. He's just messing. He's just having fun, just to see what happens. The fact that we get Rick's perspective on both idol finds, and the pan to him, it's like, yes, the editors are having fun because once again they're showing one fake idol for Lauren and Julie. It's, once again, I don't do winners edits necessarily, but like, in my head, it's like they're so telegraphing that this man's going to win the game because they're doing things that they've never done before. They've never shown, like, the only other time I can remember them panning to someone as they watch something happen is Twyla in Vanuatu, and yeah, she doesn't win, but like, she makes it. John, we'll go with you here. Anyway, just like Rick Devin's final 5 for me solidifies that he should have been not been an alt for 50, but at what point during this season do you feel like people potentially kind of look at it as like, oh, I'm not really a Rick person? Because I still don't get it. I still don't get why people don't like Rick.
I've never understood it. I think now it's very clearly like the Jeff of it all, and just like him being a Jeff Darling has made it so that people don't like him. I think by the time we got to 38, and because it is so like those last 3 episodes are so oversaturated with Rick content, I think people just have this like misremembering that he has like so takes up so much screen time in this season. He only has 60 confessionals. Right? Like, and I know that's still a lot of confessionals, but like that's nowhere near as much as like our most over-edited.
But it's not 100 or whatever. Yeah, it's not Russell Hantz levels.
It's not like the 115 Russell got in Samoa. But
yeah,
it's twice as many, but it all comes in this moment where he's actually so pivotal to everything that is happening here. When we get this pan to him when Lauren finds the idol and he just has this shit-eating grin on his face, it's perfect. Like, this is exactly what we kind of want out of Survivor. Also, he thought of hiding an idol clue that led to a fake idol because he had it already. Like, that is not something we have seen before. It's so good. And I actually think this edit that we get of Rick Devens here is part of what makes Edge of Extinction so good, because it's a subversion of our expectations when he loses fire making. Like, that is just something that Survivor doesn't edit like this. And that is the thing that I really find is so special about Edge of Extinction. This is edited more like a scripted television show than any season of Survivor. If you look at it, it's because we have the cuts with Edge of Extinction, which is kind of like outside of the game, influencing the game and everything, has those moments there. We get the character development because of those moments. But one of the big things that we haven't even talked about yet is there are several moments in this season where we cut back to previous moments where something's happening. It happens very early. I think it happens
the Ron thing with Joe, where he's
the Ron thing with Joe in the second episode, where it's like, little does he know, half an hour ago I told Julia I told Julia to look through his bag while I distracted him at the well. Like, these type of moments, and they come up several times throughout the season. Survivor was very much, and I know I've kind of like maligned the edit in a couple of spots this season, but for the most part, the editors are trying something new, and it's really exciting.
Yeah,
I think they're also just trying to put an entire story into one episode in the finale, because that's where their winner comes into the game too. So they have to try something different. They're forced to implement some different techniques because they're trying to create an entire story arc / reason why some guy is going to win the game in like 2 hours.
But it's a lot easier. We've seen many seasons where they edit for someone losing the game. Right? Like, thinking about like Guatemala, right? Guatemala isn't a season that's edited to show how Danny wins the game. It's a season to show how Stephanie loses the game. Whereas, and you could do that with Edge of Extinction. You could have centered this entire season around Gavin and how he lost the game. Except the thing is, Gavin's such a nice guy. There isn't really a reason why he loses the game other than the fact that Chris ends up playing a perfect game for this season.
It's funny you brought that up, because I paid a lot of attention to Gavin this time, just kind of like poke holes. I guess like, no, I can't. I feel bad for him when War Dog was talking down to him, like, oh, poor Gavin, like, this sucks. I want to hug you, Gavin. This Final Five Tribal is where we hit peak annoyance with Aubrey on the jury, because once again, it just feels like she's just looking to be the Eliza Orland's GIF of the season. GIF or GIF, whatever you kids say. But on the fun end of it, we do have 2 fake idol plays. We have 2 real idol plays as well. And ultimately, we are going to lose Lauren and hit our final 4, where once again, at least for me, unless Rick goes home, it's open game for anyone. I thought that any of the 3 could potentially win. I know the archetype for Julie is not working in her favor, but I thought that there was a possibility that any of these 3 people could win. Jocelyn, for you, is it set in stone? You know, we lose Lauren now. It's like, is it Rick or bust? And also, when Chris wins, did you think it was even a possibility that he'd give up the necklace?
I did not see Chris giving up the necklace, but the second it happened, it made sense, and I was like, no, that tracks. That's not surprising. I didn't guess that it would happen, but it tracks for what he needed to do in the moment. It is, by this point, in in the limited amount of gameplay we've seen him do quite a bit with the time that he's been back. And that move alone is like, okay, no, now it's, to me, kind of a two-person game at that point. Gavin and even before Lauren left, to me, it was kind of like there's a case to be made, but I didn't see either one of them being able to make a fully strong argument unless something went really well in their favor game-wise by the end of the game. So at this point, it's kind of Chris has stepped up and shown us the game he's going to play now that he's back. And sadly, it doesn't go my way at Fire. But yeah, until Fire, it's pretty much a two-person game in my head.
McKenna?
I was definitely rooting for Gavin here. I just because I had been with him the entire game, my soul was crushed when Victoria was voted out because everyone told Chris, get out Victoria because we're gonna vote for her. And so by proxy, then Gavin was my next person to, keep rooting for. Obviously, we love Devins with his shenanigans, but I don't think I didn't not like Devins, but he wasn't like my top to try and win the game at my first watch and watching live. I think he does benefit from either a rewatch or a binge watch, because you get his antics more frequently and they're hilarious to watch. But week to week, I wanted to keep my favorites in the game. And so I was definitely gung-ho for Gavin to win the game. And then when Chris won the game, I just was shocked and couldn't believe how. And I mean, now I've come to realize that Chris played the season. Obviously, the season is not on trial.
The theme is not on trial.
The theme is not on trial. And I can see why Chris won, but I also, Gavin would be a deserving winner as well.
John, before I get to your Final Four thing,
yes,
watching it today, so my favorite show of all time outside of Survivor is Lost. And one of the big issues that a lot of non-fans have, anyone that doesn't like Lost, I just call you, or likes Lost but hates the ending, as call them a non-fan. But a lot of the non-fans, they kind of lost around when the time travel stuff happened and all this other stuff.
Wild. That's what the show gets.
Binge watch.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, binge watch the show and tell me that you still don't like this. Because if you can binge watch and tell me you still don't like it, then okay, cool. Because I do feel like the problem was week by week, especially when you're taping it or TiVoing it, it can become grating maybe. Rick Devens is the same way, where it's like, if you can watch Rick Devens in a binge watch, it's so much fun watching the storyline from beginning to end. Whereas compared to like if you're watching week to week, I guess you can kind of feel like he's hijacking the screen time. We have proof, and also I just don't feel like that's the case. But it does seem like for a lot of audience members, when I first joined the online portion of our community, and I saw the hatred that he had, and they're like, oh yeah, he was hijacking screen time. I was like, yeah, I guess he was, until I sat down and watched it again. It's like, no, he's not. And people are crazy because fandoms are crazy. John, Final Four.
Okay.
Chris.
A couple of things. I just want to mention one thing first, because I've been holding on to it since we started the episode. And that is the fact that McKenna made mention of wanting Edge of Extinction to like stop at Merge. We can't have Edge of Extinction stop at Merge. We need the twist for the season in the finale. It's the entire purpose of why it gets to the end here. And I actually think that I don't think Chris needed to come back with an idol, but I actually think giving him the split idol into the final 6 is actually like really dangerous, because it's really hard to figure out exactly who's not going to go home at that point, and also give you that idol back. So I think it is really interesting there. But Final Four, there is something that Chris does. I don't even know if I've ever heard anyone talk about this. I noticed it for the first time, and I've watched this season many times today while rewatching. What does Chris do after he wins immunity at Final Four? Does anyone know? Specifically, what does Chris do after he wins immunity at Final Four?
Because you told me, he helps people practice fire.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This is fire with Gavin and Julie. Teaches them how to make fire. He is able to practice fire making without it seeming super suspicious that he's going to give up his immunity necklace and challenge Rick to fire making. And he finds the most genius way to do it, to just coach these two and show them over and over again how to make fire. It is one of the most underrated moves we have ever seen in a Survivor game.
Wow, yeah, I guess that just didn't resonate with me.
It's not something that would really, it's not something you, unless you're like really looking for it, you're never going to notice that it happens.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like, he gives the necklace away. What are you trying to get? What are you trying to get at here? But yes, he does, and there's his spiel at that Final Four tribal is like, it's one of those iconic, despite the fact that people hate it, it's one of those iconic moments in Survivor history. I'm going to give you my necklace away. I'm going to go to fire with Rick Devens tonight. And it's like, yeah, this is, when you look back on the show in 20 years, hopefully still going, this is still going to be a scene that is shown because it is such a groundbreaking, whatever you want to call it. It's such a monumental moment in the show's history because it's the moment that the guy that got voted out day 8 completed his journey of doing everything he needed to do in order to win the game, despite what the fans have to say and all that. It doesn't matter, by the time we hit 20 years from now, that's going to be buried in the show's history. The only thing we're going to care about is he gave the necklace away to go to the fire with the biggest threat and won. Mm-hmm. The context is going to be gone. It's the micro thing. Oh, it was Parvati that made Eric give away the necklace. It's like, no, it wasn't, but whatever. Like, let you people think this. In reality, it was everyone else. That's my anti-Parvati line of the night.
Andrew,
you can't be on the podcast right now.
You can't be anti-Parvati around me.
But hey, I'm going to give her credit in about 8 minutes. So, Rick loses fire, and him and Chris hug it out. The jury seems pretty torn on like who they're rooting for during this. It seems like Reem is really in the Chris camp. Which once again, once we get to Final Tribal and Jeff asks, "Oh, who still is on the fence?" It's like, why are all of you raising your hands? This is clearly bullshit based off of what we just saw. And we have our final 3 of Julie, Chris, and Gavin. And for me, I guess I was rooting for Gavin or Chris. I think Chris had the better story, but I have enjoyed Gavin all the way up to this point. Jocelyn, we'll start with you. This final tribal, I hate the panel. Like I decided today. The last few days, I'm like, oh, whatever. The panel's fine. I think today was the day that I realized, no, I think I hate this. Like it's just not fun, and people are talking over each other. I think it was pretty egregious today with them talking over each other. One, what are your thoughts on the panel version of Final Tribal, and how do you think that the finalists kind of performed?
I really loved this large jury for the whole season until now. It was very fun to have that many reactions at Tribal, to have them have their own world where they're having the conversations. Normally that can annoy me. This season it just felt really fun. Like Julia reacting to Devens is incredible this whole season. But I agree that when it came down to Final Tribal, it was just too chaotic, too much. And I think what it comes down to for me, and what, despite lots of, McKenna and John, you both changed my minds on multiple things on this win. I'm learning and growing in my Chris Underwood journey. But I think the biggest thing that it still comes down to for me, and whether it's the situation or the edit, the way that the final tribal panel went and the way that Chris's responses went, too much of this still just feels down like it comes down to jury trauma bond to me. That the missing piece in this was some kind of competition between them at Edge, or some way, not necessarily fire tokens to send the advantages or something, but some way where the game was happening at Edge in a different way, so that I think by the time we get to this final tribal, most of them are already made up their minds on Chris and what they want to ask to have the perfect thing for Chris to be set up, because they've gone through this whole experience together and they're seeing their boy come back and do the win in the way that they want it to happen. So it felt very much like a room full of people who have been hanging out with Chris for a while coming in and getting to ask a bunch of questions to Chris and to other people at a lot of times to me.
Yeah. McKenna?
Yeah, so I like the panel in more, if we're going toward the new era and 50, where Jeff is like, oh, X, you have a question. Why? What is your question? Instead of the would play out last segments or just the free-for-all explosion. I think it does work when it is a bit more refined and he's asking specific people to state their questions, instead of having them do the formality of like standing up and they're the only ones talking. Because in 50 we did have some chime-ins that were constructive to the panel and things like that. But then we have game changers where it's just exploding everywhere and we can't like hone it back in that much, and it's just the jury talking and the finalists aren't saying anything. But with this one, it is hard for me to grasp that he spent so much time with the jury, and that's the thing of what this season is, and it almost behooves you to stay in the game, which is anti of everything Survivor. If you are a physically fit person who can win a challenge, get voted out first, second, third, because then you could win your way back in after spending days, weeks with your jury and catching them fish, like pulling the Aussie move of South Pacific. But like that, I love Edge of Extinction, but it also changes the nature of what Survivor is with this twist. Mm-hmm. In the fact of you want to be voted out so you can spend time with your jury.
All right. Are we ready for my pushback on all of this? Did any of you see the reel that Aubrey posted last week?
No.
Aubrey posted a reel last week in response to Boston Rob and Mike Bloom interview.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay, in which she explains that the biggest mistake a lot of people make in this movie is invalidating juries. Like in Survivor, that is the biggest mistake that most people make. When they get to the final tribal, they think they're trying to defend their own moves, but they're not they're not validating the experience that a juror has in the game. Mm-hmm. Chris gets a massive boost here because he shared that experience. And I actually think what a lot of the problem that Gavin had, I think Gavin had the potential to win this game. Yes, Chris goes in with a plan orchestrated via his social game. He knows the blueprint that he needs to follow in order to win the game. Gavin clearly has champions on the jury, and one of them is a returning player with a very large voice, but he doesn't get all of the returning players' votes. So that makes you question then, why is that? And I think a lot of that comes down to some of Gavin's and Julie's responses really diminish the experience of the people on the edge of extinction because of the way that they come at Chris. And that is a flaw in their social strategic game when it comes to Survivor. We can talk about how living on the edge isn't playing the game because you're not going through these mental stresses of being in the game and having to worry about being voted out all the time as much as we want. The point of the matter is this season, that is a thing in this season, right? As War Dog says, and McKenna already quoted it, the theme is not on trial here, you three are. And what Gavin and Julie really failed to notice was how to validate the jurors, despite the fact that they didn't get the chance to live with them on the edge and experience what they experienced. And that is so important in Survivor. That is, when we look at these bitter juries and these losers who we think, or even like when you look at a bitter jury or you look at someone who goes in that you think has a shot of winning and then loses, it's a lot of the time because they're not validating. I think it's really quite telling that Aubrey is explaining this in this reel that she posted last week. And really, you should give it a listen to if you haven't. But
sure.
This is just an experience that is so pivotal to Survivor because that is the entire premise of the game. Going back to day one, the entire premise of this game is you have to vote people out and then somehow convince them to vote for you in the end of the game. And the only way you can really do that is by respecting their game. Coach, you've mentioned that Edge of Extinction is the Vanuatu of this like new era. And a lot of that comes down to the way that Chris does exactly what he needs to because he validates the jury, just like the same way that Chris does in Vanuatu. That's how Chris gets the win in Vanuatu. If you look at the people who are dominant at this game, the most impressive wins we talk about in the history of Survivor, it's these people who validate the jury and understand the social aspect of the game to get those votes in the end. Gavin was so caught up on the fact that there's a bit of conjecture here, but Gavin is kind of caught up on the fact that like he was playing this game, Chris got to play this other game, and that's where the differences lie, that he didn't notice that the majority of the jury also played that game with Chris, and he had to tailor his answers to them. That's why this season's so good, because it shows the basic premise of Survivor in a way no other season really has.
Yeah.
I have a note that I wrote down that says that this season is proof of concept that jury management is more than just the conversation Ozzy has with someone before he votes them out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. Yes. God, Ozzy. Oh, man. 12 days. 12 days from now, I'm going to be sitting here around this time cussing at my TV over what Ozzy is doing. To kind of continue with that, and we're going to start wrap up here soon. This is the big moves era. It's 31 through 40. Big moves era. Of all of the winners in the big moves era, Chris makes the biggest move of any of them, period. And as someone who hates big moves, it's the only one that makes the most sense at the right time. Because even if like all the other winners are winning because they're more social or more likable or whatever, they were able to idle their way, and bend situation. But like what Chris does here, even if you look at pre-big moves era, it's one of the best moves in the history of the show because it ultimately does get him the win, because he does win in a blowout. He doesn't get Kelly and Lauren, who in my opinion I feel like we're always going to vote together, but also Johnny, you messaged me earlier and I noticed today it's like Kelly was being sort of shitty to Chris for reasons. So he doesn't get their votes. He doesn't get Devin's vote. Fine, whatever. Let's maybe say he's upset, and then he also doesn't get.
It's Devin's.
Victoria. He does. Victoria doesn't vote for Gavin.
It's Aurora's vote.
Aurora's. Is it Aurora?
Aurora votes for Gavin. Yeah.
Okay. No. So he doesn't get Aurora's vote. And that's the thing with the 30s is I can usually figure out why people vote a certain way. And here none of the four actually makes sense. I just have to make up my own narrative in my head. The other thing is, why does Victoria not vote for Gavin? Because she doesn't go to the edge. So she doesn't have he doesn't understand what I did, thing. She only has, I went to Ponderosa and Gavin didn't vote her out. Do we know the answer? Do you guys have any thoughts on why Victoria doesn't vote for Gavin in the end?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. And it is one of those like big mysteries that I think would be really telling. But I think when someone who's your closest ally the entire game, someone who Gavin even mentions Victoria was his closest relationship in the game in Final Tribal Council, and she's not voting for you, there's got to be a reason, right? And I think that, again, is one of those things that really validates Chris's win here.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Chris ultimately wins, beats Gavin, 7-4-0, something like that.
It's 9-4-0 because there are 13 juries.
9-4-0. Okay, 9-4-0. Oh yeah, math. 9-4-0. And that's gonna end the Edge of Extinction, which we're gonna get back in a season. Before I get to my personal ranking in the final two questions, McKenna, final thoughts on Survivor Edge of Extinction?
It's top tier. I really do think it has slowly creeped up in my comfort seasons. I think now I'm speaking a little bit out of my butt here, but it might be the season we've pulled the most episodes from for the podcast that John and I do. It sure seems like it, because we always want to talk about it. There's typically a reference we can make through this season, and it's just, I always have a good time with it because this cast is just one of the best casts Survivor has assembled. And I just think this is also one of the best crop of newbies too. Even if you want to lump in, the 4 returning players for the overall cast, but just even based on newbies, like this season could have ran phenomenally, even without the gimmick of the 4 returning players.
Jocelyn?
Yeah, it's just so much more fun than I remembered from my first time around. And there isn't a ton of Ponderosa content from this season, understandably, but there's content of David 3D printed all the puzzles and all of them sitting around playing it. And that is the energy of watching this season to me. Like, it feels very much like an LRG production group testing all the puzzles before you run your game. Like, that's the feel of watching this season to me. It's just, they take most of the hits well. They have fun playing. There's fun games. There's blindsides. There's groups going against each other in interesting ways. At the end of the day, that the Edge could have been done better, and there are complaints that I have, but it's probably, it might be this number 2 season for 20s and 30s for me.
And John.
Obviously I love this season. I just want to give Julie Rosenberg some shout outs here, because I think her closing jury speech is phenomenal. Just that idea of her saying, I came out here to kind of prove to myself that I could do this, but I realized I'm already the person I want to be back home. I'm already doing these things in this game. Really acknowledges that, and that goes to everyone on the jury, impacting that. I think this season is underappreciated and over maligned for a lot of reasons. I think seeing Chris Underwood go on to win another reality show afterwards, because he does win the Challenge USA Season 2, spoilers, but he does come back and win another reality show afterwards, one where he doesn't play as good of a social game, I might add. But
he has so many eliminations.
But it goes to show that it's not just a fluke that Chris ends up winning this season. You get some spectacular characters that it's really unfortunate we went so long without a returning player season, and we can't see the likes of Ron Clark or Victoria Bamonde or Lauren O'Connell or even Gavin or Reem, Big Wendy. Any of these players come back and play again, because honestly, I think McKenna said it. You could run this season back and it would be so entertaining, because these are just a fantastic cast. It kind of sucks that we've lost a few of them from the Survivor community and they aren't as active in it anymore. But the ones that are absolutely spectacular. And I just love this season so much. I can never speak more highly of this. I'm doing a rewatch myself right now, nowhere near as quickly as you are, Coach, but through the 15 seasons I've watched, which is like seasons 1 through 13, and then the 2 that I've covered for you, like Edge of Extinction is like number 3 for me still, because I love this season so much. I love this cast. I love the gameplay. And honestly, I love the narrative of the season. It's just something that we don't get in Survivor a lot. And sometimes you just need the story to push a season over the top.
The last time I did this, okay, so I guess after 50, I redid it. I just added 50 to the list. Edge of Extinction was 30 out of 50, which, yeah, it was 30 out of 50. And that was after, the last time I did the marathon. Today, through 38 seasons, wrong list. Today, through 38 seasons, I have Edge of Extinction at number 12.
Wow.
Right behind Marquesas and right in front of China.
Wow.
Let's go, Andrew!
Let's go!
Join the comic cult!
So what I'm more interested in thinking about is, will this end up being my favorite Edge of Extinction season? And we'll find out in a couple of days, because I think it might be. I think it might be. All right, last 2 questions. Yes, more than John. Like, I mean, it's my list. Last 2 questions. Jocelyn, you already answered it, but like, if you want to say somebody else, it's fine. Who would your number 1 ally be this season?
It is really hard because there's so many fun people that, like, from the very beginning, it's like, oh, I would want to work with that person for that reason, that person for that reason. I really think I would have wanted to work with Ron pretty quickly, though.
Yeah. John?
Oh, this is actually something McKenna and I texted each other about earlier. But you're like, how do we narrow it down? Because there are so many. I mean, you have, Ron is someone fantastic. I know whoever McKenna says is going to be fantastic, unless it's Joe. But I mean, I have to go with like my number 1 Survivor crush in Lauren O'Connell, because I actually think she's just such a fantastic player to work with too. I think she is so loyal, and I kind of think of this as like Lauren now, 8 years later, would be so fantastic to run a game with, because I think she has matured so much, and she loves this game, and she really does just understand the game really well. And yes, she was a little too loyal to Kelly in this game, but that's what you want in an ally, right? You want someone who is that loyal to you, that they would hear someone come back into the game and say, hey, you need to play your idol for me because it has to be a big move, and do it. Like, that is exactly what you want in an ally.
Yeah. McKenna?
Okay, so if I start on Manu, then I'm going with the Kelly Lauren War Dog. But if I'm on Kama, then I'm going with Gavin Victoria, but I have to bring Joe into that. And I just think
you named 6 people.
Yeah, I did. But ultimately, my number 1 would be Victoria. Victoria is my number 2 crush. I can't usurp Parvati, but Victoria has a game that is just so incredible, and I would let her go to Final Tribal Council and lose to her, no problem.
So my answer is Gavin. My Parvati reference that I was going to make 13 minutes ago, my answer is Gavin, is the fact that for the longest time, I would always have Chris as my worst winner by default, but that's just literally only because of the days played, because I do appreciate and love his game when he is in the game. Obviously, because Parvati won an exaggerated LRG last year. No, I'm kidding. Because she won Australia versus the world in a very dominant fashion, I can no longer say that just because Chris only played however many days that it should be that low on a list, because Parvati won double the days, but still not that many. And also, if you're going to count days as your test for how, then Tina's the greatest winner ever. So for me, this actually raises Chris in my own personal rankings because of what Parvati did in Australia versus the world. So there's your Parvati compliment, McKenna. And then, final question. If Suri won, you'd say, no, it counts no matter what. Yeah, you're right. If Suri, no, what Parvati did counts. It counts. It pains me to say that she won, but like she did. So I got over it a long time ago. Something the modern fandom would not enjoy about Edge of Extinction, McKenna.
There's a lot to say, but I'm just gonna go with the split idol at 6. When Chris comes in with it, I think that is way too overpowered. And I don't know. I know you want a cookie cutter the same way you brought in Devon's, but I just think it is way too late in the game to bring in an idol that then expires at 5. It almost forces him to play. It gives him that 5 as safety. If the person gives him the idol half back, but I just think being able to play an idol that you're given by production at 5, a little too late in the game.
John?
I mean, is the cop-out answer to say it's just the Edge of Extinction in general, like the twist of the Edge of Extinction? Because I think it's really interesting because you're saying like the modern fan base. This season is a modern season of Survivor, right? Like I know it was like 8 years ago and stuff, or 7 years ago or whatever it was, but this is a season that it really comes down to like the thing they would hate the most is that the person who comes back into the game wins the game.
Yeah. And then Jocelyn.
That's honestly all I had too. This feels like a modern season. When you're watching it, it feels like it plays a lot like a modern season. There's not a lot at this point that's standing out anymore as like drastically different gameplay. But I think the way that it was done with the 2 people coming back and the timing of it and the different amounts of gameplay that they had to play and ways they had to play is really interesting as a concept. Didn't necessarily get presented to us in the best way. And I think modern fans are very used to having the stories be very clearly told to them that are being told. Here's this person that we like for this reason about them, and here's this person on the tribe that is nice to them for this reason. So I think the Edge twist, and especially not having it explained or told well, would take them out.
I have to start thinking tomorrow about what my question is going to be once I hit 41. But for now, to answer the question, because this is one of my last chances to get a dig in at the fandom, when the first battle back happens and Jeff's like, "Oh yeah, history, blah blah blah." Do you know what Jeff says to get the returnees in, or the Edge people in?
He says, "Come on in, guys."
No, he says, "Come on in."
Oh, does he actually?
There is no guys, and you know how much
guys the rest of the season.
Yeah, so, he doesn't. He only says, "Come on in."
You're right.
And apparently, the fans hate that there's no more guys. It's no more guys. So Jeff was woke back in 2018-19. Apparently, no, it's all a gag. Thank you all so much, John, McKenna. What do we have going on the Specialists?
Well, John and I are doing a podcast every Wednesday, right around 8 o'clock, with one of our good friends, Kyle, who has been on the podcast here with you. It's called Bitter or Better, where we talk about the first jurors' impact on their season. So I can't wait until we talk Edge of Extinction, because that is going to be a great conversation when we have to talk about Reem as the first juror and first boot. So yeah, that's what we got going on over there.
Yeah, and also, McKenna, we will be doing our winner rankings over on the Specialist starting on the 30th of June. So that'll be an interesting 5-episode series as well.
Wow. Oh, okay. Yeah. So 10 a day.
Yeah.
That'll be perfect because I'll be finishing this on the 28th. So
perfect.
I can just go right into watching y'all for 5 weeks after that to get my Survivor content, because I am taking a very long break afterwards. Jocelyn John, McKenna, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I did not expect Edge of Extinction to go 2.5 hours, basically 2.5 hours. But
McKenna and I did.
Yeah. So I apologize if I kept you all up late. Tomorrow, my goal is to make sure that Island of the Idols does not hit an hour. We will see if that happens. That was my goal of Thailand. My goal of Island of the Idols is the same. But thank you to all three of you for, because this is the last time I have all three of you, unless you join for the final day. Thank you all. I really appreciate you guys all hopping out throughout the years. It's been great. I really love shooting.
60. Let's go.
Not happening. 70 maybe, but no, I really appreciate y'all taking the time to do this as much as y'all have, and Jocelyn, especially being a newer fan of the show, years ago, the fact that you've added so much insight to the seasons that you have come on for, I really do appreciate it, and I'll always value all three of you. Thank you again, and we will see you tomorrow for Survivor Island of the Idols.